I call Jackie Dean.
Mr Speaker, Labor have found themselves in an invidious position over the consideration of this bill because they actually want to change the flag, and that's a problem for them because they campaigned on wanting to change the flag. In fact, they campaigned on having a referendum to change the flag, and they found themselves wrong-footed somewhat by the fact that this government, who also campaigned on changing the flag, actually have done what we said we would do. So, having found themselves wrong-footed over the process, they are having to cast around for reasons to oppose. And it has been a little bit like dancing on the head of a pin, because you raise one foot and you just about topple off, and it's been like that the whole way through this process. It seems to me that when the Labor opposition find themselves trying to advance an argument they don't actually believe in, they then start attacking the process. And that has been very apparent also throughout this consideration of the flag bill. So I want to dwell a little bit on the Select Committee stages of this flag referendums bill and talk about how this committee made certain decisions around the hearing of submissions. And those of us who are backbenchers and spend a lot of time in committee rooms will know that the committee has a discussion at the start of the process to decide, those mundane things like timeframes. How long are we going to allow people to speak or invite people to speak? What are the conditions that they come in? And when committees are faced with some pragmatic decisions, which is what this committee did, they make those decisions as a committee. And so what happened in the consideration of this bill, and for those people sitting at home or listening on the radio, they will hear a bit of a noise in the background. That is Trevor Mallard. That is Trevor Mallard losing the argument yet again, because Trevor Mallard has got no argument to make, and so in the absence of any argument, he is making a lot of noise. So, some of the decisions that the committee made were how long we were going to invite people to speak and how many people we were going to hear. One of the decisions that the committee made, and it was a committee decision, it wasn't a National Party decision, and in fact, wasn't it the Green Party voted with the government on this? Yes, they did. So the majority of the committee voted that it would consider a number of submissions coming into the committee as form submissions. Now, form submissions are a normal part of Select Committee practice, and it does surprise me that that the Assistant Speaker of the House, who is also the person making the most noise over this, who should know his standing orders, does not know his standing orders or does not purport to know his standing orders in this case. Because normal Select Committee practice is that the committee can decide to group a number of similar or identical submissions as form decisions, treat them as if they were a petition, and consider them in that way. And that is what the committee decided to do. And Trevor Mallard is making that noise again because he is losing the argument again. And so I just want to go into those form submissions just a little bit more, because the question then comes from how did those submissions come to the committee? Well, it might surprise some members of the public to know that those submissions came to the committee via the Labor Party website. So, those form submissions came to the committee via the Labor Party website, where they were given, so you click onto the Labor Party website, and they were given a tick box to tick. So all people had to do, and they were having their say absolutely, but all they had to do was say, no, I disagree. Well, that's fine, but when you get a whole lot of those with the same people making absolutely the same point, I would contend that grouping them together, and it would have been a sizable pile with a sample on the top which reflected everything that lay beneath, should be treated as a form submission. So when Trevor Mallard gets to this House, and every time he does, he loses the argument just a little bit more, what he is doing is he is willfully ignoring what he should know about parliamentary process. So I will tell the House that the Select Committee, and I want to thank them at this point for their consideration of this bill. It was lively debate, as Select Committee should be. We heard very carefully submissions made to the committee, and we made a couple of changes as a result of our Select Committee consideration. Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to take a terribly long contribution to this debate. I think this bill is relatively simple. It sets out the framework by which New Zealanders can have a decision, a say on whether or not they wish to change the flag. And this is the final point I want to make about the process and about some of the opposition contribution as they lose the debate, mostly in the name of Trevor Mallard, and that is that this is not about the Select Committee process, actually. This is not about what the Prime Minister may or may not have had in his heart when he generated this debate, although we are pretty sure it was in the best interests of New Zealand. It is not about that, actually. What it's about is enabling New Zealanders to have their say on what represents us by way of a flag.
I call Dr. Kennedy Gray.